Do you want to learn how to play like the legendary Stevie Wonder?
Very superstitious. I just call to say I love you. Don't you worry about a thing.
Well, if you do, then you really need to understand how Stevie constructs his chord progressions to get that unique sound. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you what I think are the 5 greatest Stevie Wonder chord progressions of all time. I'll break down what makes them special, and then I'm going to show you the one chord that Stevie uses in almost every progression that gives them that signature Stevie sound. And before we start, I wanted to mention that in just 3 days, we're launching our summer special where you can save up to 50% off the Piano with Jonny membership, so I'll put a link to that below. All right, progression number 1 comes from a song released in 1976 by Stevie from his album Songs in the Key of Life.
Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she brilliant?
Oh, this sounds so good. I just love how these chords are just sitting on those beats. This is called a 4 on the floor, where you're playing a chord on every beat. Okay, so let's go over the basic chords. We're starting with a C minor 7, really simple. Then going to what's called an F sharp 9, okay? Cool jazzy chord, kind of has a bluesy sound to it. And then, this is one of the most important chords. We're going to talk about this in a minute. It's called a B9 sus4. And then finally, a beautiful E major with an add 2, okay? So these are the 4 chords of Isn't She Lovely? And then you're going to do a 4 on the floor. So you're going to play each chord on the beat. Okay? And then you can do little walk-in lines, like on the bass. You can go like this. Just little walk-in lines. Bum, 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 right? And you can do this to all your bass notes. Ba-da, bum, bum, little chromatic lines, okay? And then a little walk down. Now here's the trick to this chord progression. We're in the key of E major, and we're starting on a 6 chord, the C sharp, okay? So this is C sharp minor, it's a 6 chord in the key of E minor. Then we go to a 2 chord, okay? That's a major chord, that's 2 major, and then this is the magic, okay? On that 5 chord, the B, instead of playing a B major, he plays a B sus, okay? And this is one of the most important chords if you want to play songs in the Stevie Wonder style, or if you wanted to write chord progressions in the style. When he goes to his 5 chord, he doesn't play a major chord. Almost every time he plays a sus chord. And on top of that, he adds some additional notes. He usually puts a 7 in there, and he'll also sometimes put like a 9 in there. You get more of this sound, okay? So this is definitely one of the most important things of playing chord progressions like Stevie Wonder, is when you go to your 5 chord, don't play a major chord, play a sus chord, and then you can have the 7th and the 9th. You get this really cool kind of gospel sounding chord. Now, I do want to mention, these are the basic chords. So when Stevie's actually playing, he's not just playing a C minor, he's doing like a C minor 7, right? And then he's like doing an inversion. And then on the F sharp chord, he doesn't play an F sharp like this. He does a dominant 7 chord, and sometimes he'll put the 9 in there. But I want to show you the basic chords, just so you kind of have a general understanding of how these chords work with each other, but you can feel free to add some additional notes if you want to kind of jazz it up. All right, before I teach you progression number 2, if you're enjoying this lesson, please hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, progression number 2 comes from a song released in 1969 on Stevie's album, My Cherie Amour.
My Cherie Amour, distant as a Milky Way.
What a beautiful melody. Now this chord progression is very unique, and the reason why is that we're playing this tune in the key of D flat. In fact, my first chord is a D flat major 7, beautiful sounding chord. But the next chord completely takes us by surprise. Look at our next chord. This is an F sharp 9 sus 4. This is not a chord that we would usually put in the key of D flat major. If we went to a 4 chord, we would probably play a major chord, but he puts in this F sharp 9 sus 4, which is actually a chord that leads to a B major chord. And B major is not a chord that you'd usually play in the key of D flat major. So right off the bat, we're starting in D flat major. We go to this F sharp 9 sus 4 to a B major, and it is very unique. Most popular chord progressions do not follow a sequence like this. So this is something that's quite unique in Stevie, is that he'll go from the key of D flat, and then it almost feels like it changes keys to the key of B major, but then he loops it back around to the key of D flat with an A flat 9 sus 4 chord. So this is a leading chord back to the D flat major 7. Now you can groove on these chords. I do want to mention that he does go to a very brief A flat 9 with the resolved sus to the C. You can throw that in there toward the end of that progression. So the formula behind this chord progression is that we're starting on a major chord, then we go to a 4 chord, the G flat, but we make it a sus chord, okay? And this is a leading chord, especially if you add the 7th, right? It leads to a C flat major, or you could think of it as B major. This is a flat 7 major chord in the key of D flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You flat it and you make it a major chord, okay? Very unique. And then our final chord, we're gonna go to the 5 chord in the key of D flat, but again, he doesn't just play an A flat major, he makes it a sus chord and then resolves it. And once again, we have that sus chord on the 5 chord. Same on the G flat. That G flat is a 5 of B, and once again, he's using a sus chord. So if you want that Stevie sound, you want to use these sus chords on the 5 chord. By the way, you can download the lesson sheet music, and you can change the key of this entire lesson with the click of one button with our smart sheet music, so I'll put a link to that below. All right, progression number 3 also comes from Stevie's album Songs in the Key of Life, released in 1976.
Sneaking out the back to hang out with those hoodlum prison man.
So freaking good! I love this chord progression. And it's such a simple chord progression, but it is so effective because it grooves perfectly over these 2 chords, and the melody works really well over these chords. And then later on the chords change, so they get a lot more interesting. But I want to show you these 2 chords because they sound really good, but they're so simple to play. First chord, E flat minor 7, okay? That's it. To a 4 chord, A flat 9, okay? Beautiful. Jazzy sounding chords. These chords are used a lot in funk and gospel music. They are super cool. And then you can groove on these chords. Okay. Now the bass in the recording is doing something a lot more interesting. He's going. Okay. So you can do the more complicated bass line, you know, or you can do the more simple bass line, just with some octaves. Do what's best for your playing level. Now the formula behind these chords is very simple. I'm starting on an E flat minor chord. This is a 1 chord, going to a 4 chord, A flat major, okay? That's it. 1 minor to 4 major. By the way, this is based on a scale called the E flat Dorian scale. So if you wanted to improvise on these 2 chords, you can do that. By the way, if you're enjoying this lesson and you want to go even deeper on the funk and gospel styles, I recommend that you check out our funk and smooth jazz piano learning track. In this learning track, you'll learn how to improvise in the funk style, how to solo, how to groove over different chord progressions and tunes, and how to play R&B and smooth jazz styles. We also have our gospel piano learning tracks where you'll learn my top gospel chord progressions, how to groove over these chord progressions, how to use them on common tunes like Amazing Grace and Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's a ton of fun. You'll also learn how to improvise in the gospel piano style and how to walk bass lines, so I'll put a link to these learning tracks below. All right, progression number 4 comes from a song released in 1972 from Stevie Wonder's album Talking Book.
Oh, you are the sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always be around. Yeah.
Once again, another beautiful melody. So this chord progression is in the key of B major, and for the first chord, we're going to play a major 7 chord. Then we're going to go to a 4 chord E, but instead of an ordinary E, we're going to play it like this. This is called an E major 9. Then a 3 chord D sharp minor. We're going to make this a minor 7 chord, and then a 6 chord. Okay, Stevie loves to put the flat 9 in his dominant 7 chords, so we're going to use an A natural there. And then C minor 7, this is a 2 chord, okay, play it like this. And then the 5 chord, what's the chord? It's that sus chord again, look at that. Instead of playing a major chord, he suspends it, and then he also adds a 7th, and he puts a 9 in there, and then he clusters them together down below. And then we're back to our major chord on the B major 7 like this, and then back to our 5 chord, and once again, he susses it. He does not play the 3rd. Now I like to groove on the chords like this. Okay, it's kind of like a bossa nova groove if you're familiar with this Latin jazz style. So the chord formula here is you're starting on a 1 chord, you're going to a 4 chord, then a 3 chord, and then your 6 chord, little 2 chord, and then the 5 chord, but once again it's sussed, and then the 1 chord, and back to the 5 chord sus. All right, progression number 5 comes from a song released in 1982 from Stevie's album Stevie Wonder's Original Musiquarium.
Oh, so long for this night I pray that a star would guide you my way to share with me this special day where ribbons in the sky for our love. People love.
What another gem from Stevie. So this chord progression is really cool because we're in the key of D flat major, but we're starting on a 2 chord E flat minor, and we're playing this gorgeous chord called an E flat minor 11, one of my favorite chords in the book. And then he goes to a 3 chord F minor, but he plays it like this. Okay, he adds some really beautiful colors to these chords. This is also a minor 11 chord, and then he goes to a B flat chord, but instead of using a dominant chord or like a major chord, he suspends it once more, and this leads us back to an E flat chord. So it's a 5 chord of E flat, and once again he susses it, okay? So this is called a B flat 9 sus 4, and it brings you back to the E flat minor 11 chord. Now I like to groove on these chords like this. But you can also keep it more simple, like that. So the chord formula for this is that we're starting on an E flat minor. Once again, it's a 2 chord in the key of D flat. Then we go to the 3 chord, and this is minor, so F minor. And then the 6 chord, but it's sus, so it's like a B flat sus. And again, Stevie adds some other notes like the 7 and the 9 to this chord. So once again, the key chord that Stevie uses in almost all of his chord progressions is this sus4 chord, and it's specifically on chords that are a 5-to-1 relationship. So if he's going to an E flat chord and he's on that 5 chord, he susses it. Or if he's going to a B major chord and he's on the 5 chord, the F sharp, he susses it. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have tons of step-by-step courses, live learning events, and an awesome community. So be sure to check it out, and I'll see you in the next one.